So with BOSA, Rise Mzansi, and the Good Party coming together, one of the biggest problems that we've had in South Africa is that we've had so many political parties. If you look at the IEC website, you will see that there's slightly over 600 political parties, with slightly below 400 of the political parties at national level, and some of the parties are at provincial and others are at local. That's a big number of political parties in South Africa. Now, the problem that has is that whenever one has to go to the polls to cast a vote, the vote is essentially fragmented across these different political parties. You get to choose the political party that you want, but they get to have a 1% or even below 1%, which essentially means that in terms of representation, the vote did not come into full effect, meaning when we look at impact, analyzing how votes are being cast and we look at impact, it means that the vote might not necessarily be as impactful. Some will actually argue that it doesn't matter how disenfranchised your vote is, how fragmented your vote is. Every single vote matters. Yes, it does. But also when you look at impact and you look at political agenda, when so many, particularly Black people in the country, when so many of them are living under poverty, when so many of them do not have jobs, when systems of racism continues to permeate into all structures of society, be it in our education system, employment policies, every other aspect. What we then learn is that in actual sense, apartheid did not die, but what it did is that it went underground and it manifests itself in many different forms. Now, in an attempt of Black people uniting and casting their vote to unite so that they have much more strength and much more numbers and power, they do not have that because their votes are scattered across all the different political parties. Floyd Shivambu came out, leaving the EFF, joining the MK party, and now Maibuye Africa, his own political party. One of the things he's spoken about also is that these political parties are fiefdoms of themselves, which means that these political leaders feel the need to still be occupying the highest strata, the highest position to be leading, and it's all about themselves, but it's never really about the society. It's never really about the South African people. That's the biggest problem that we've encountered in our politics. Now, the three political parties, BOSA, Rise Mzansi, and Good, they say that they aim to remedy this situation by actually coming together in their thinking alike. Because if you look at these political parties, there are similarities between the three political parties. Now, let's do a little bit of a recap to look at the three political parties that have merged. The Good Party emerged in 2018 after Patricia de Lille broke away from the Democratic Alliance following internal battles over race, housing, and corruption within the city of Cape Town. Now, Good positioned itself as a party that is focused on clean governance and social justice, and it reasonably, around 2019, secured 2 seats in parliament. And then came Build One South Africa, which is BOSA. Maimane's come back after leaving the Democratic Alliance. So BOSA aimed to give independent candidates a home, to promote accountability and youth-driven politics. It was built on the idea of leadership should be local, should be participatory, and also to show a post-liberation identity in its format. And then you have Rise Mzansi by Songezo Zibi, a former journalist, editor, and corporate executive, built a movement based on values, civic renewal, and constitutionalism. It wasn't just about elections, it was about reimagining the political culture. Now you have these three political parties that are similar in many ways. With 2 of them, of course, their leaders having broken away from the Democratic Alliance. These 3 political parties are coming together to form one. In their interviews, they have said that these are not only the only political parties they have approached. They have approached other political parties, and they still hope that some political parties will come and join. That is why there hasn't been a detailed conversation about leadership within the party, because they say it's not about leadership. Firstly, that's a lie. We know that that is not true. When it comes to the political game is a monster of its own. At the end of the day, there's got to be a way in which someone emerges as someone who's running the political party. So this is one of the biggest measures we've seen in a very long time since the 2000s. This is the biggest measure. And they do say that they are actually still approaching other political parties so that they can come together and form this one big political organization. Now, let's look at the position politically that this united political party, we perceive them to be. Of course, they could have an identity that they themselves say, this is our identity. But from analysis, when you look at these political parties, these are not political parties that have been largely rooted in the poor, marginalized communities as their base. The analysis shows that from their electoral pool, it tends to be more of the middle class South Africans. And hence they keep speaking about the center, that they are more of a centralist or center-focused political organization. And what that means is that they don't see themselves in the spectrums, the radical spectrum where you'd find your EFF and your MK, but also not on the liberal spectrum where you'll find your Democratic Alliance and your AfriForum. So they position themselves as a non-rationalist party that exists somewhere in the middle, which a lot of people have believed that's what the ANC is, but many at times the ANC has proved itself that that's not their identity. And in actual fact, you can spend hours debating what the actual identity of the ANC is. So, in terms of whether these political parties are going to be effective,